So we'll get main input.
This side is looking very dudeish. I'm kind of like,
What up?
Might just take it off.
One, and then your input's going to be down here on 8.
All right, great.
So I'm leaving that that angle
just
plugged in on this one. Yeah, you don't have to have it on, but just to
Yeah.
verify your levels.
Yep.
So this is all still recording. That'll be our audio source. And then this is recording now. So, yeah, we're good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we have an opportunity to walk people through essentially what I like to consider my role with patients,
right,
in the sense of being a guide, somebody to help navigate them, to be able to share and explore, just have a curiosity about things. And it starts with what's the issue, and then how do you define it? Getting all the information that you can to then take a process and a discovery of what interventions might work for you. So in that regard, for some time, you've been mentioning that your shoulder gets tight. You are going to be in a career being a cinematographer, photographer for quite some time. And hopefully, I can tell you, in my experience, have seen much older cinematographers and the complaints they have about shoulder, hand, and those. We have to have a discussion. So,
and I know, I think going back to one of the first parts that you talked about is trying to get all the information from people, and it's a question also, I suppose, where you have to not just ask them these questions, but try and I think. Not everyone always knows every facet of their own problem, right? They may be approaching it from one angle, but they're completely ignoring or just not considering a plethora of other factors that could be contributing to what they're experiencing. Yeah. How often, as sort of a preliminary question, how often do you see that in your patients where you have to sort of give them a little more structure for them to better understand their own issue?
Well, at first it has to start off with, what does this look like? I mean, so part of it is there has to be, from my end, a sense of, I have something to contribute.
Right.
And if they're agreeable to it, then I'm all in.
Yes.
That's the first step.
Yes. Okay.
And it comes from their end too. Are they comfortable?
Right.
And are they open to trust?
I see.
Because if somebody has already closed their mind and doesn't want it, then there's no point going through it, because it is about discovery. Yeah. And so it is extremely important to be able to understand how somebody understands their own health. For whatever background. Yeah. And then try to tune into a frequency that resonates between the two of you, so that they're, as a clinician, I could talk to you, well, your rotator cuff and probably your rhomboid, probably you need some additional structure.
For most people, just over the head.
Okay. The likelihood of you actually doing anything about it is nil. And you're more than likely never to ask me another question about your shoulder.
With that kind of approach.
Yes.
Do you find, you also said, you find you have to encourage people sometimes? You talked about it's very much a relationship. Obviously, you want to be a source that can provide care, but it's also on their end, are they willing to accept that care and work with you? True. I mean, have there been instances where, you have an individual who could very much benefit from a relationship with you in a caring medical sense, but at the same time, that connection wasn't there initially, and there was then maybe a switch at some point where they were like, you know what, I'm now willing to open this up.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has to arrive at some place,
right? Yeah,
and I've certainly had examples of a patient who reached out to me for help, and I agreed to do that. And I had made some recommendations so that patient could be fully invested in their own health and wellness.
Right.
And what showed over time was that they were unwilling, the convenience of me being there as a guide, not just as a physician, was a crutch.
I see.
And what had to happen was for me to say that either you follow the recommendations I've provided or I cannot help you.
Right. So.
And difficult because that same individual who I helped for years then was extremely upset.
Yeah.
But which means that they didn't really fully accept the value of the relationship.
Yeah. They felt like something had been taken away from them unfairly, maybe.
Yeah. It was not a two-way street.
I see.
And first of all, I wasn't charging them at all for it. I'd been providing this support as a courtesy for years. Yeah. And the one time where I was like, look, you haven't been following my recommendations, they were pissed.
Right.
They left a nasty voicemail, and they're a horrible person, and all these things. And, things come to that. And, I understand everybody has their, different backgrounds and maybe different hardships. Yeah. But at the same time, if it is to be a healthy relationship, then it has to be. And what I was hoping was if they took the recommendations, they would then be more invested and not use me as a crutch. And the long term would be, their health would be dramatically better.
Right.
So, and in this case, it was an individual who had asthma. And I had repeatedly recommended, called in a rescue inhaler for them and pleaded with them on several occasions, no, you really need to see a pulmonologist, get pulmonary function testing because you can die from an asthma exacerbation. So, and I don't want to get a story that somebody died from something that was preventable.
Yeah, it's a bad piece of news to receive.
And I was in a difficult situation of, if I don't give him the rescue inhaler, then what's he going to do? But I was not affecting a change.
Right.
And unfortunately, they saw that I was being oppositional and didn't see that, no, I'm actually all in.
Right.
You're not. And that's hard. I basically had to walk away from that.
Right.
And I trust and hope that they're well.
Yeah.
Maybe they've taken those recommendations and maybe they have come to realize, what I was trying to do.
Right.
Everybody has to take their own journey. And it is very important to have, if you are going even to start off on a journey together, that there has to be some level of connection and faith.
Right.
And if you build up the relationship the right way, the long-term benefits are, you just change everything.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've always been sort of fascinated about, especially with adults, and as I get older and sort of experience my own need to change in certain areas. As children, I think, even from a neurological perspective with neuroplasticity, your ability to take on new traits and learn new things and adapt is quite powerful. As you age, not to say that your adaptation abilities diminish, but for people who are sort of set in their ways to really make a change, it's always been something I've been taught that there has to be some kind of like level of trauma, right? Like it's almost like you have to be shocked into changing, because unless something really affects you in a very impactful way, the likelihood of you making a meaningful switch or change into a new lifestyle is pretty minimal. Mm-hmm. And I see this like with my dad. He's got took him forever to get a hernia taken care of. Pretty simple thing that ended up like just crippling him for a while. And the same thing now with his knee after a bike accident 17 years ago, and has gotten to a point now where he has a ton of trouble walking, and it's taken away. He's a physical guy, was always very athletic, a laborer kind of dude, and uses his body in a way that now he can't, because he neglected a problem that was something that gradually intensified over time, and just felt like he couldn't put it down, had to keep on working, and now he's sort of paying for it.
And this is where he makes his own decisions. He's an adult, and you even as his son, it's, you can have the conversation, but then it's really, the harder part is to be able to go on a journey with somebody.
Yeah.
Even when they don't want to.
Right.
To explore it. And, sometimes it's, especially in the father-son dynamic, to have another party to do that can help, especially if there's any lingering issues that kind of, well, you can't tell me what to do because
right.
I'm your dad. And blah.
Superiority dynamic.
I never heard that in your relationship, but but if there is an opportunity to understand, if people can just take a moment and pause and say, what do I have to lose?
Right. Yeah.
That's a question for any key decision-making process.
Mm-hmm.
I always am like, what do I have to lose?
Right.
And you realize I have a whole lot more to gain than to lose, then all that's holding you back is you. And though, you talked about neuroplasticity, but, it's also, we do get stuck into like a way that we move through life and processes. And sometimes you just have to have something like, unfortunately, trauma to affect a change. This is where, people do need to have an open mind and constantly consider reinventing themselves or thinking different.
Right.
And you can't do that if you're, you're in a state where even the thought, it's a matter of extending energy, right? You only have so much.
Right.
So maybe sometimes the issue is not so much somebody doesn't want to do something. It's that they don't know how much energy is going to, and they think, I don't want to put my energy into that.
Right.
I'd rather do something I enjoy doing.
Yes.
And just avoid that.
Right.
But it always comes back to
you. And that last point is a good one too. And I think this is an entirely separate conversation, but when we talk about the American healthcare system, especially, it puts some people into this decision-making process of like, I have to choose to either prioritize my health right now, or maybe that's continue working or continue caring for family members who need you present. Like, just going back to Dad with a knee surgery, that's going to put people out of commission for a while, or at least slow them down.
Yep.
From what I understand, if it's a rather minimal procedure, they kind of want you up and moving relatively quickly right after that. But still, if you're somebody who is a physical laborer, I guess you're gonna just take a hit on that stuff for some time. And I think for many Americans, that's where that decision to prolong care happens, where you're just like, I can't do it right now.
Yeah. And I get that.
Yeah. At some point in the future, I'll have time, but just not right now. And then that not right now turns into this month has passed and that year has passed. And next thing you know.
I had a woman who had suffered a stroke and she was bedbound, required her daughter to do everything for her.
Right.
And it was beautiful to see that. In the course of taking care of the mom, I started to realize, wait a minute, daughter's not taking care of herself.
Yeah.
And so I had several conversations, what are you doing to, stay healthy, be active? And unfortunately, in the course of time, her daughter died of a heart attack.
Oh my God.
And then the patient, who I was caring for, it was, tragic, and, people need to make their own decisions and, but they need to live by it. But you have to think of the larger impact, how that affects others around you.
Right.
Not doing, things that are good for you is not doing good for others in a sense. So,
yeah, it extends beyond yourself. And it's maybe tough to see because you want to believe that your actions sort of don't necessarily influence the people that you love or care about.
And I'm in a unusual position that I am naturally an introvert.
Yeah.
That I always, I'm comfortable like that.
Yeah.
And so sometimes extending myself out, and, these are later conversations about the dynamics of personality types and those things.
Of course.
And, we'll see that as we capture more and more stories and, what really makes people tick, and then kind of dissect those things out. And getting somebody like Jay to come in and talk more about, personality. Yeah,
that would be fascinating to hear those conversations with her.
Exactly.
She's definitely well versed in that area.
So you want to dive in?
Let's do, yeah. So maybe for viewers, they can kind of get a sense of what this process would look like. As some backstory, I have, always had a little bit of a funky shoulder, I guess. It's an upper trapezius issue. And when I was growing up as a younger person, I never really had much trouble with it because that was a time when I was developing, muscle tissue, and there wasn't a lot there when I was a teenager, like scrawny kid, just figuring things out, lifting weights and starting to play sports and things like that. But as I started to mature, I noticed that there was definitely a muscle imbalance there, and it was and still is something that affects me in my ability to perform certain movements. I know my range of motion is severely limited in that shoulder as compared to my right. Not that I'm a flexible person by any measure, but it's also something where like overhead movements, such as like maybe a weighted shoulder press or something, it's difficult for me to keep that shoulder back. It wants to sort of fall forward, which is not an issue on the right side. But interestingly enough, when I was in Korea, I had, I guess, what you would call like sonar or ultrasound done. So I went to a hospital there, and they kind of looked at my neck and that area and discovered that really there was like nerve innervation in C2-3 in that range.
So your cervical spine,
right?
There was a nerve that was kind of getting compressed.
And there was a blockage, actually. So traditionally on that scan, they would see sort of a darker area indicating that there was a good nerve pathway. Mm-hmm. And in this, it was occluded. It was maybe 10% open or something. And so I was kind of like, there it is. That's probably it. And that's, I think, obviously that muscle is not receiving electrical stimulation from the nerve and therefore has never really been able to develop appropriately. But it is something now that I'm doing more work with Ernest and all kinds of people doing these, gigs where I'm loading camera equipment and holding cameras for long durations of time. And even just general, long days. Yeah. When I get to the end of a day where I haven't stopped moving, it's like, oh,
that hurts.
That's not good. And it's been manifesting in this very weird, like sharp sting, almost like I got stung by a wasp, or like I've had a needle kind of pushed into that area, and it's like, whoa. It's not debilitating, but it's like it gets my attention. Like, oh, okay, I know I'm tired when I feel that.
So let's go back. So they diagnosed you. And what were their recommendations?
So going back even before Korea, I had looked at, I had gone to a physical therapist at the University of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri. And at that time, there had been some recommendations from that team member about a few different stretches that I could do, one of which was actually using sort of like almost foam rolling for my back, but they would recommend essentially like a ball. Mm-hmm. This could be not a baseball per se, but something that sort of form factor, right? And I would have to lay on the ground and put that under that area and sort of try and make some motions with this arm while the pressure of my body was compressing over that hard object. Yeah. And so, I think this is where it was my fault partially, right? Because I didn't stick with that. It's something where I implemented a few things into my exercise routines, but specifically following the guidelines of what they had laid out for me is not something I stuck with very long. Okay. And I know that maybe had I done that, the story would be a little bit different. Mm-hmm. But receiving the information that I received in Korea, it became obvious to me that there was actually a physiological deformation that maybe it wasn't as simple as just some movements twice a week that were going to overcome this. Mm-hmm. And so it put me into a bit of a mindset of like, can I really do anything about it?
Yeah. And that's, anything that is a chronic condition, that's one of the concerns. Like, it's like, if somebody has high blood pressure and, I've had patients that, are sick and tired of taking pills or don't want to.
Yeah, they're just done.
And then, and then heart attack, and then usually then they start taking their medication after their first heart attack. Right. So, it's trying to work with yourself and being kind to yourself. I never recommend trying to make abrupt changes.
Right.
in our minds, we can't lay down pathways for complex activities and, reinforce it in a positive way that it becomes ingrained.
Right.
You have to find what works for you on a daily basis that you don't even think about it. It's like a reflex.
Right.
And then and usually it tends to be when people have made things more overly complex and it's multiple steps as opposed to simplicity. So even for myself, a great example of this is I know that as I'm aging, there are certain things I need to do to maintain and optimize my health.
Right.
And I literally cannot start my day unless I've done those things.
Yeah.
And they're small things, but I can tell you that cumulatively over time, it's had a tremendous
big impact.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So now we have the history for this, and what you're suffering now, you've described, and how. So you have a choice, and it's in the future you have surgery, which still could be part of that future, but. What are some things that could be interventions now that you can, again, not making things more complex, but just simple things so that, my suggestion first is let's go in and start looking at, because if you're doing any activity with your normal body weight,
right,
then that's what your body's used to.
Yeah.
When you add a weight to that, that's new.
Yes.
So you have to think of what you need to do to augment your physiology so that you can support the heavy equipment that you use.
Yeah.
And in that case, it is looking at using a brace.
Right.
Because you will be in situations where you'll need to hold thing for a long time or you need to lift. And a condition like this, you've already said it gets aggravated.
Yes.
Right? So we can hop on the Google train.
Here we go.
And start to take a look. So this is what I would normally do with any of my patients. I'd say, I think, why don't we try looking up a few things. Let's have some curiosity about it. And let's talk about how we can take this and affect a change.
Right.
So I would simply type in shoulder brace, and that's just a starting point.
Yeah.
And the first thing that you can see that there is an entire industry with a plethora of options. And what this means is you to think that you can go on Google and find the right product for you on the first go around. This is a matter of taking the perspective of this is going to be an investment, and I'm going to eventually find what's going to work best for me.
Right.
And as you can see, there's a number of different options, and they are based on models who probably was a former gymnast.
Yeah, look at this.
It's like, I don't look like that.
Casual 8-pack.
So obviously I already know, and I can take comfort in knowing that I will find something.
Got the tribal tattoos.
Yeah, exactly.
Ready to go.
And the other part of it is some of these, and this is where we start going down this, if you want to say a rabbit hole, but there is different products available, compression sleeves, there are braces, then you find that there's hot and cold treatments, and then they'll have the vibrating ones. It goes on and on.
Keeps
and
on going.
And on.
Yes.
The pivotal point is to take the initiative to at least, and I would suggest trying to find something simple and inexpensive and try that.
Yes.
And if you are going to go down that, then to give it a certain duration of time so you can, because you could buy it and it sits in the corner.
It doesn't
do
used,
anything.
right.
But to really see the impact of it, to really use it in a way that's consistent. So the challenge to you, and we'll come back to this in, let's say, 2 weeks.
Sure.
Is to go on, and let's go on and let's buy you a brace.
Yeah.
I would suggest something that, I always, so I have the same issue where I tend to, over time, get very tight and everything moves forward.
Yeah.
So I need something that pulls me back.
It's definitely a posture thing for me as well.
Yeah. And
because even now,
yeah.
I'm my shoulders are a little bit rolled forward.
Exactly.
Just,
and that's exactly what you want to achieve, balance, because the body is in alignment. And anything that puts you off is only going to get aggravated and exaggerated over time.
Right.
So my suggestion is to use it to focus on both shoulders, not
just one. So
Yeah.
it's a balanced sort of activity. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can see they're focused on just the shoulder. So then we shift our search. So this is where we need to be open-minded about, okay, this is a discovery.
Right.
And so, let's play around with it. So it's shoulder brace, but now we're going to shift it and do a posture brace.
Okay. So let's remove the word shoulder in that case
Yep.
and just do something that says posture brace. Oh, and it even populated their posture brace for
Yep.
shoulders.
So now you can see, okay, well, wait a minute now. And so this is a thinking process. This is, okay, you could rush out and get a shoulder harness.
Right.
And then be like, okay, this is crap. And
Right.
I spent the money and I'm never doing that again. And you'll never go back to another brace. And unfortunately, I find this happens very often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you close your mind to opportunity, then, you'll never fully realize it.
Yeah.
So I would suggest, getting on something on a site that you can return the item if you need to.
Yeah. Your Amazons.
Being honest, so why not?
One other thing I wanted to add to this query was maybe posture brace, and then go even deeper here and just say camera operator, and see what's there. And
So
then
these are going to become much more high tech and
Yes.
much more expensive.
right. So you're
You
into
can
your
see.
easy rigs and your
Because they already know the
Yes.
price point, because they know you're a professional and they know
Yeah.
that your life depends on your ability.
Right.
So let's keep it simple.
Sure. Let's go back then.
And
We'll actually go over to Amazon and just take that. So let's try the posture brace. And we know it's, for shoulders, I guess. We can go that route.
Yeah. So these are devices that will roll your shoulders back. So essentially you'll stand up straighter in a sense. And, they are, it's like a crutch. You are using it to do that.
Right.
But what you'll find is if you use it consistently, you will start to remember.
Oh my gosh. I'm just watching this little video. It's really
Yeah.
seems
Bow. Yeah.
based on that, it seems quite effective.
Yeah. And it's you will start, your body is adaptive. I mean,
Right.
they talk about neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is not just the mind, it's the whole frickin' body.
Yeah. And it's
So-
like a subtle reminder. I told you about, and I know that when we talked about it, you didn't particularly think this would be as effective, but it's these little posture correcting like adhesive pieces. A good friend of mine, Chad, he has one of these that his girlfriend Leanne purchased for him, and he had made a comment like after a couple of days of wearing that, he was like sore as hell.
Yep.
And it was just because it was constantly activating these muscles that he was letting relax.
Yeah. And sometimes, the adage, no pain, no gain is true.
Yeah.
So it's but the thing is over time, is he still using it?
I
Is
don't
he-
think so.
Yeah.
But he might. I'm not
He
sure.
might,
I'll touch base on him.
But and I'm not in disfavor of it.
Right.
I just think whatever works for you, it is your discovery. I'm not going to be wearing this for you, right? You're
Right.
wearing it. So I have my own, and I found mine that works well for me, and it's a
Yes.
no-brainer. And it's sitting right next to my door. And when I go out, if I think I'm going to be carrying heavy equipment, then I will be doing that.
Right.
So I would, just go ahead and.
Yeah, see what's available here. So, I mean, Amazon allows us to refine our search pretty nicely. I guess, like most people, look for the reviews and see which one has been purchased the most. This one looks like it's got 30,000 on here.
And now here we're looking at buying a product. We do have things like YouTube. You can take a look there and do a quick search.
Right.
In YouTube for.
That's a great resource, and
Yeah.
I'll often do that.
Yeah.
Because even for camera stuff, it's like I need to see someone use it to really feel confident in making the purchase.
So we're here. Let's open up another tab and go on YouTube and see what others are talking about. And if we find that there isn't great material, then maybe we need to make some,
Yeah. So let's see. What do we have? If we were to look up shoulder brace, let's just go with that. And these are singles. So let's go and refine again with the posture. US2.
And again, the reason I'm pushing towards posture is, your body, you want to maintain balance, if you.
Should you wear? A posture brace.
And so, I have an opportunity, obviously you skip all the ads and then,
And today we're going to talk about something I get asked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then take it with, you'll have varying degrees of opinions about things. It's your discovery.
Exactly. Figuring out which
they're
one
not going to wear the brace for you.
Yeah.
And, they may make comments and, maybe additional suggestions. But it's your journey.
Yeah, and everyone's body's different. So, I mean, what works for one person with this brace may completely fall flat for someone else. Who knows? Yeah. But this is, I think, I think about even this conversation, sitting here with you, knowing that you are a medical professional, knowing that I am somebody who is looking for a solution to a problem, just taking it all back to the idea of earnest medicine. It's like you don't really get this in an office setting, right? You don't get this in a traditional. And granted, we have a different relationship outside of a patient and a doctor. That's not like how we operate, of course. But just even going back to Missouri last week and being in that environment with my mom, it wasn't, the care was there and she was regularly taken care of by people there, but it wasn't, I think the thing that makes all of what you do very unique is this approach, right? It's the curiosity, the discovery, trying to help people help themselves in a way. It's not just about reaction, but it's more about prevention and trying to get into people's heads that there is change to be made if you put in that initial effort. And it can have long-term and long-lasting effects
and
that
you
are
don't
significant.
have to make it overly complex. But for me, it starts from the first part is, even when we first met, I'm already, my medical mind, I'm kind of like that idiot savant. My mind is going, okay, he needs, we'll get to it eventually. But then
I'm interested
the other
to hear
part.
those,
It's a question of, I do that everywhere I go. I'm like looking at people. Even we were meeting with Gabe and Vivian, I think. It was the same thing I was already doing. My clinical mind was already focused in on certain things, and we'll get to it later.
Yeah.
But even for knowing now that if even just this small period of time that we've spent doing this, if it can affect a change so that in 20 years you're still out there shooting, and I see you on camera and you're wearing a fucking brace, I'll be like, fuck yeah.
That's the one.
That's
the one we ordered on
how I know.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Yes.
And nothing's better than, if I go into a patient's home and I see,
Yeah, that has to be a really good feeling, I think, from your end, right? To see that advice and that confidence that you sort of instilled in them, it turned into something.
Yeah, and I think that only perpetuates, my role in, what I do as a physician.
Yeah.
I would not, if I didn't see that there was that, in a clinic setting, I would never see it.
Right.
I wouldn't know what you're doing in the home or out in the work job.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things. So, and this is what it's like. I mean, we're essentially walking through what this, but it first starts with the sense that there's a connection.
Exactly.
That there is a relationship, and along this a journey.
Exactly.
And do we have the answers now? No, but let's go ahead and order one.
Yeah, you put me on this. Put me on the spot here. See,
you gotta take the plunge.
I'm definitely the kind of person who.
You're gonna research this the fuck out.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm
it's
like just, but there's so you want something. You saw the one with the video where she had the strap
for men.
Exactly. So yeah, that one probably right there. You want something that you can put on and it doesn't show as much, right? You can still wear a shirt. But you want something. The straps are the part that I think are the more important part.
These are really intense.
Some of them are really intense. Yeah, that's probably going to be somebody who's doing lumbar support, weightlifting, those sorts of things.
And I'm not as much into that per se as just the upper back having that sort of tension.
Yeah. So something like this one right here.
Yeah,
where the straps are fairly easy. I found if the straps are fairly easy to lock in place with Velcro,
right?
That gives you enough.
And I think that's similar to that looping video that was playing previously, because she was able to sort of position it where she wanted and then really cinch it together by pushing her arms forward.
I mean, you want it to be comfortable because you'll be wearing it for several hours,
Yeah.
right?
Wow. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, they're
of
just trying to
course,
sell a
there's some
product.
advertising
so, yeah,
there, but-
exactly. Come on.
Yeah. So this,
Don't put it
I guess, what is this saying here? Oh, this is saying that the others have this sort of unstable situation here, and this has this double stress point thing.
And I've gone through all these products myself, and so I bought several and demoed them, and and again, this is the reason why I can go down this path with you, because I've been through it.
Right. You've gone through this with probably a number of different ailments with different patients. You've kind of
and myself
and yourself
Yeah.
even,
Yeah.
right? So I guess the other thing here would be sizing. So large, extra large.
Yeah, you do want a good fit.
I wonder how do they
Say a
evaluate
sizing,
this?
If you scroll down, there might be.
Yeah,
a
let's
sizing.
see. Oh, here. Oh, 32, 39 under bust, but that would be for, I guess, a female's measurement, right? If I go down even further. And I think these are, sometimes people will get discouraged when researching. I know there's so much information out there on any number of products, but just giving yourself that like extra 5 or 10 minutes before making a purchase could really result in a better experience for you.
Yeah, and don't. I would say just come up with something and pull the trigger. This is Amazon. You can return it.
Right.
Really wear it. Kick it around and see.
So they have some here.
Mm-hmm.
Please measure your waist with a tape measure. Well, I kind of know I'm roughly a 32.
Mm-hmm.
And then refer to the size chart to choose the right size for you.
Model 2, I think, would probably be yours. Right?
Model 2 would be, because that's just going to be much too slender. Height 5'5", height 6'1". Yeah. Weight 142 pounds. It's very thin 6'1" for sure. But yeah, so that would be, I guess, Model 2. Model 2. How are they?
Large, I guess.
They have sizes here. Let me go down again. Are they saying it's an actual model? Like a person?
Yeah. I think, no, scroll back up. It says small, medium, large.
Oh, there.
Yeah, it is. So the medium.
Yeah.
You want the medium, right? No, the large. You want the large.
Well, that would go on the large side of me. Do you think the medium would be
well,
tighter
that's Model
fit?
2 is, right?
Yeah.
That says 35. Right?
Yeah. So I guess large.
Yep.
All right. So add that. I'll blur all this out. Yeah.
And then we have a product video coming up with John.
Okay. And then we'll go forward.
And it'll come February 24th.
I'm going to blur out that address so you don't pay us a visit. Okay.
Bing.
Voila.
All right. So, come in the mail, and try it out. And then see if,
And that's again, going through this is something I could have done on my own months ago, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a testament to the collaborative nature of and the importance of a relationship with the person who you are sourcing to provide care, because that is something that took us 10 minutes and could have been done on my own a long time ago, but that sort of external push wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, it was something that I would just, I'll get to that. I'll take care of that at some point.
It's natural. I mean, that's the thing. And it's a question of, is there value? I'm invested in you because I don't have to hear you complain about your shoulder.
Yes. That's the reward. It's a grand reward.
Or, if you're like, next time you're like, my shoulder hurts, and I'll be like, how's that brace? And no, I'm not really.
I don't have it on.
Okay, then guess what?
So I got to put a little hook over there on the board, or just near the door there, and just have it ready to go. Yep. Because I mean, simplicity, accessibility, all these things are factors in people's willingness and actionable motion toward actually doing what you recommend them to do.
And I think people have the best intentions, but it's very easy to get overwhelmed. And, certainly in this age where you can get on something like Amazon, it's like, oh, well, wait a minute. I don't know.
Your paradox of choice slapping you in the face.
Yeah, exactly. You could certainly go and see your physical therapist or an orthopedics and get their impressions. And it would be fascinating to actually do this exercise with a physical therapist and get their insights into it too.
Yeah. So maybe a connection with Brian Williams and having, or Kate again, just to have that evaluation and see.
And it's not like we have all the answers. You have the answers. We just have to be there to be able to get you to arrive at a point where you invest in yourself to take action.
Right.
And then, let's say in a month from now, the brace sucks. So I was like, okay.
Yeah. What's next?
What's next?
Yes.
Exactly. It's not like, okay, well then, there's
never
nothing
mind.
else we can do. It's like,
I'm destined for this.
Yes.
Right. Well, I mean, that was great. And I think, thank you. So, I feel like there are a lot of scenarios out there that people would be curious to know about. And that's where this sort of how-to thing is that I'd like to implement into more of what we make, because there are, just me as an example, when I go out and film and I work with other people, there's a certain technicality and a technical knowledge that I have to sort of know going into those environments. And that's why people hire people like me to go out there. And same for you. There are years and years of experience that go into being able to make a calculated decision and being able to respond appropriately when something comes up.
Sure.
And I think that there is definitely a hunger from others out there who can view someone like you giving even the most minimal advice that they just, because they are not physicians and not medical professionals and don't have that training or experience, just might not know.
And I would take it one step further. I mean, I am a physician, but I'm also a person.
Yes.
And I've had this issue, and that's how I know about it.
Exactly.
I want to share it with you because I've benefited from it. Anytime I think, one of the difficulties for clinicians is time.
Yes.
There isn't enough time for them.
Yeah.
And then it's very easy to get trapped in your own head and how you think.
Mm-hmm.
And as a clinician, there are certain processes that we go through that then sets up a barrier between you and the patient.
Yeah.
And when you have 40 patients to go see, you just plow right through it.
Yeah, that's got to be numbing.
Yeah. And then what you miss out on is over time the different potential you had in impact.
Yeah.
That 10-minute visit versus a 45-minute visit that made a change.
What could have happened?
Yeah.
What could have been?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would hope that then that is appreciated, and then the next time, I've had patients refer somebody else to me for help, and I'm happy to do it.
Yes.
But everybody's a little bit different. I've had patients very successful in relationships with them, and then they referred, and that referral, unfortunately, was really not beneficial.
Yeah.
In a relationship, it is not every relationship's a good relationship.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Just keep it moving. Excellent.
All right. Well, I think, this is a good starting point and a follow-up, too, once this thing comes in. And maybe a little bit of test run on it and some upcoming activities that we perform together, and just to see, what kind of physical effect it has on me. Yep. And
you can post this in the Wealth of Health, or
Wealth of Self.
And
see what that,
just start,
move it from there. Well, I'm excited because it's actually turned into a physical thing now instead of just I'll get to it, So
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to put this into work. We'll see where it goes.
It didn't break the bank. It was just a little bit.
28. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well,
Excellent.
let's wrap this, and these are conversations that obviously we want to have with people on the podcast too, because beyond just the professional abilities, it's the human experience. And that's where I think people are trying to find that point of connection. Yeah. Not just for the docuseries, but for life.
Absolutely
what we're looking for as human beings. So, all right. Cool.
Excellent.
Peace.
Thanks, everybody. Peace.
And if you happen to find any of this interesting, or more importantly, if you want to collaborate, check out the link below so that you can send us your comments, any stories you may have, anything. We're happy to entertain it. And this is really about us going on a journey together.